Okay, chipping away at the rounds. Krishna, time for a little more Bhagavad Gita. I was just thinking how in practicing Krishna consciousness, you change. It's still you, but instead of, like for instance, instead of living to eat, you simply eat to maintain the body. So it's not that eating isn't pleasurable, it is, but it's not the goal. It's simply the pleasure of eating. And Krishna, the goal is consciousness of Krishna, and accepting food as Krishna's mercy. So it's not like living so that you can eat. I think that's it. Isn't that, it's described as anamaya, the beginning stage of consciousness is I eat, therefore I am, like a baby. Hare Krishna, but it changes. The eating is still there, you're still eating and it's still pleasurable, but there's something else going on too, consciousness of Krishna. It's not like the eating is the whole thing. Krishna. Okay. So this is Prabhupada's disappearance day. And he gave us the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And this is translation and word for word and transliteration and commentaries. Very authoritative. This is text 13 from chapter 2. Arjuna, Krishna is enlightening Arjuna to help relieve him of his material attachments. He's become confused about his duty as a warrior, which has brought him into a very awkward situation where he has to fight with his relatives, his family members, the whole community that he's a part of. He has to turn against them and destroy them. And he's not inclined to do that at any cost because of material attachment. They need to be removed. They want to exploit everything, and Krishna doesn't want that. He wants, for the benefit of everyone, he wants the kingdom and the world to be managed to bring everyone up and elevate everyone to the goal of life. God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, realization of personality of Godhead. This is a very pivotal time, this war that's about to take place. And Arjuna is overwhelmed. And so Krishna is speaking to him. Here in text 13 he says, Dehi nosmin yata dehe komaram yuvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. Self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Prabhupada's commentary. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet, the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next life, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have either spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So, in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the supersoul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the Supreme cleavable or changeable, against the principle of the Supreme Soul being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called chara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the supersoul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramātmā, who is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy, Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other being the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgotten soul, deluded by Maya. Hmm. 14. Matra sparsasta kauteya sitosna sukadukada agamapayino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. Krishna continues, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception of skin of Bharat. One must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magh, January, February. It's very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya or illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama